Chafa no escape for Bangolan. Bangolan don't vomit Isaac out of their land. Isaac is a thorn in our flesh. Where we try for Duam, we want to pass this message for the Cameroon government and all the funds of the Northwest and the funds of the Southwest and the full funds of Cameroon. Say today, the 13th of February 2026, the Bangolan community, the kingmakers, the notables, the prince of Bangolan, they gather here today for perform their last cleansing. This stone, where we see for here. Now we forefathers, they plant this stone. Not be only them. They be one plant this stone. All the funds of Ngokutunja, they be plant this stone together with them. Since the 16th of February 2016, Senator Chafa Isaac, he became for Bangolan with a group of unknown people in the name of church pastors. Come for destroy this stone in the name of being a believer, without the knowledge of any notable of Bangolan, nor the kingmakers of Bangolan. To us, we see say it will be now a group of terrorists where they come for terrorize the Bangolan people. But thanks to the help of our ancestors and the God Almighty, we discover it very fast. And when we be discovered, Isaac Iran go for Yaoundé. Today now 10 years where Senator Chafa Isaac never stepped for Bangolan land. And before the drastic measure of deterring Isaac, the Bangolan people, the notables and the kingmakers, they will do everything for call you into order for good 7 weeks. Isaac said he not get no time for deal with successors. He be a believer and he no want tradition. As all the Northwesterners, they know, they found to be the custodian of the tradition. And when you talk say you no want tradition, you get for liver for person where you go do the tradition. You know if force a good meat through glass. So Bangolan be persevere. They call it for good built by the Bangolan people. This tree, when I see them, all of us when we stand for here, we see this tree and I see them. But now the very Isaac don't send the people, it's terrorists. They come burn up, say one fixed palace. So when the Bangolan people be noticed, say Isaac, you know one for be found, they say, okay, according to our tradition, before any drastic measure, the one be taken, they go persevere for 7 good weeks. As the 7 good weeks will elapse, Bangolan people say, okay, as you don't deny, you get for go. And Isaac, as he be take military camp back and for we, for the Senator Chafa, we take military camp put and for we palace, he run go for Yaoundé. Bangolan say, okay, now we don't destroy with sacred places for palace, and we not use them for now. Bangolan people decide to go for another site where they up hills, take another palace for there. Where now for there where the enthroned fund immediately after Isaac be buried. So when Senator Chafa destroy all these things, Bangolan people decide say they go do cleansing for their palace. Because the palace does not belong to him. The palace is that of the community. The palace does not belong to Senator Isaac. It belongs to the community. And now you see how all they can stand. So they will start cleansing for here on the 28th of January 2026. Now the first cleansing that way the Bangolan people will be doing. The second cleansing will be on the 5th of February 2016. 2026, I meant to say. And today, it be the last cleansing when Gumba don't take back the palace. For tell Isaac said that palace does not belong to you. Senator Chafa, that palace does not belong to you. Now we on. So, we the talk today say, if we not see this, say they don't dethrone Senator Chafa since 2016, it not be no fun for Bangolan. It's any fun. It's any country. Of course, the amity among them. Then they are doing that on their own. Bangolan people no recognize Isaac. The thing will happen for Bangolan. It be out of politics. The Bangolan people know they do politics. Tradition not get politics. When you want to do politics, you do politics. When you want to do tradition, you do tradition. When I see them stand for here, and when I don't see them today, it be because that we found where we will run war for palace. Go put it outside. We don't bring it, put them for your papa, your compound. It be with order from them. And today, Gumba they cry, he die. And they go cry like this for 1 week, according to our tradition. The amity, they are doing that on their own. We don't know him. And we shall never know him like the son of Bangolan. After this, the Ngumba will be the supreme being of the village. If they think on what we go do after we don't do the cry of our left phone, for see who we go put on like phone. Because the Bangolan don't stay like that for 10 years without a leader. Thank God say with the help of our ancestors, that God Almighty, the village be relatively calm. We don't get no problem with anybody. Village be peaceful. But
My people, your good evening and welcome to this very special broadcast. The video you're just watching there is explicit enough, but I like to put in some words before our program begins. This is what you call the true sons of soil in the land of Ambazonia, not like in Mbeseha, particularly in Bamenda town, where you have a mixed multitude of Dongtus, of Bulus, infiltrators, who are purporting and pretending to be the people of Ambazonia, but in spirit they are not. And you have Tanganji and all of those who came from the Bamilan and manipulating them. Most of those, not all. You have some Bamis who have some sense in them to understand that the Southern Cameroon is a sovereign territory that deserves to be respected. So that video you just watched there are the sons of Bangolan who have gathered themselves to stand and to resist colonial intrusion and to stand against the defiance of the traditions, the very principles and things that make up the people of Bangolan. If you look at the attitude, the people of Bangolan into Bui, you now understand why the resistance is difficult for Cameroon. Cameroon has tried to infiltrate, to penetrate militarily, to infiltrate through manipulation and intimidation. In this Nkoke Tunja Bui axis to no avail, because these are a people who believe in their originality, their historicity, and their legality. I can't preach it enough better than the man who was talking. He gave to us in very clear terms. He explained to us clearly what is the desire of the people. He identified whoever was brought by the senator as terrorists, because that is who they are. The Cameroonian government is a terrorist government. The Cameroonian government is a government whose army beheads people on camera, like ISIS does. The Cameroonian government is a government whose military fry babies in palm oil. The Cameroonian government is a government who beats and kicks pregnant women on camera. The Cameroonian government is a government who rapes young girls and shows them on camera. In fact, if we have to do an investigation, I would say a cross-section of the leaders of that evil government are pedophiles. We saw on camera a young girl that was raped by officials of this government. If they cannot manipulate you, they will intimidate you. So this evening, we're going to have a very important program. I understand it's Valentine's Day. Lots of Ambazonians are involved, with your wives, with your families, and whoever. You are sharing a moment. It's a global manifestation of love, a global festival. And so there's no crime if you want to spend a good moment with some of your loved ones to enjoy them. I'm calling on you who are at home. Those of you who are at home right now watching us, please share. Share and tell somebody. If you're watching us on via YouTube or via Facebook, share and notify someone that, hey, we're live to have a very important discussion. I'm here with Barrister Mbeseha. Barrister Fru is with the IOC, touring the counties and government institutions to put things together. And unfortunately, because of connectivity issues, we're unable to get Sos Zama. But fortunately, we have the right person here that's going to be talking to us. We're going to examine again what's happening in Africa and the neighboring countries, what is actually in neighboring Nigeria, most especially because we have intrinsic interest in what is happening to our closest neighbors, because it could definitely spill over. Whatever happens in Abuja could impact tremendously the political atmosphere in Yaoundé, that adversely would impact the situation and the war, or the ongoing war in Ambazonia. I'll be bringing Barrister Mbeseha so that we can have this conversation right immediately. And I think he will gladly want to comment immediately on the video you just watched before we move into the newsroom to find out exactly what is happening. Good evening, Barrister Mbeseha. Welcome to this important program.
Good evening to you, and thanks for having me. I'm sorry for being alone. I hope others were there with us.
Yeah. No, you can't be sorry for being alone, because it's important so we get to share. I know that the debate sometimes is interesting because we get to savor different opinions. This is a critical discussion that does not necessarily require diverse opinion. It is about the soul of our nation that is under attack, and that we are very keen as to what happens the very next minute in our country. So you've seen what happens there. What do you have to say?
Well, I think, contrary to what others think, traditional chiefdoms, traditional culture is not different west and west. Call it that way. They reflect the same thing. They are the same institutions protected by different cultures. And so what we saw happen is in Bambalang. It is Bambalang, somewhere in Ngokutunja. It's a replica of what would happen to other places. If that story is true, what I can say, it is only one too few. One too few, because there are thousands, there are hundreds of others who have escaped, abandoned who they belong to, because gone somewhere else, and pretend to come from and exercise the same functions other than in government offices. I'm sure if there's a Bambalang, where the fund is right now, which I'm told is in Obala of Bambalang, is rather part of Mamfe. Neither is Yaoundé part. So if he is true, he's just like one of those who have escaped, but his own damage. I've set their chiefs and funds they who have escaped. They have ceased to be funds. They pretend to be funds, nowhere else but in government offices. They call that guy a senator. He's a for where? Some of them come back to become presidents of the House of Chiefs, where they live in North. House of Chiefs in a government office somewhere in Douala, in Bamenda, or somewhere in Buya. And so it's one too few, in the sense that if these people persist and if we learn from them, many other chiefs or funds will be destituted as well. You are a chief, you are a fund, you are not. Tradition does not cross boundaries. There's just no way you will live back and decide your tradition of Bala. Or Bala, you are subjected to the tradition of the people of Bala. When you escape to Yaoundé, you are different from the fun of Bali. There's no Bali quarter in Yaoundé. If it is Bali quarter in Yaoundé, for example, they are simply visitors. There's no, for example, Libya or Bama quarter in Manfi. They are visitors. You cannot install your own funds or chiefs there. By tradition, I do not cross the boundaries. They remain where they are protected. That's why they have cultural sites. You cannot, for example, be a Catholic and pretend a cathedral in a Presbyterian church. The Catholic cathedral is this. The other bishop in that cathedral, or you are not to pretend to wear inside, then they are call it a cathedral. Which is the function? So they call it a cathedral. What they call it a cathedral in the church is protect certain things by certain tradition, symbols, which you cannot carry away from the cathedral to somewhere else. They must be there. Even when they created Catholic diocese, for example, they say it is headquartered, for example, when they created Cuba, they say it is headquartered in Fiango. Because the Fiango church becomes a cathedral, it is imbued with certain things that go with the cathedral, with the Catholic church. Again, I'm just trying to illustrate. That same can illustrate it in terms of the culture. If you are a civil servant in Yaoundé is even good. We have civil servants who were in Europe, in Germany, in America, and their parents passed away and they went back to the village to become the fund. They could not transfer that fundship from whatever village it is, whether it is in Tenaco or Akwaya, to Washington, D.C. No. Because they are cultural artifacts that don't leave the village. They remain there in that community. That's why, again, for points of emphasis, for to return to Cameroun, they have to the common people. He had to reside where it was supposed to belong. For as long as it remained a stolen symbol, it was a stolen culture. He had to go back home. The government of Germany realized that. They invited Cameroon government. Cameroon did not just send a minister there. They went there with a commission, brought it to Yaoundé, landed in Douala, took it back to come. It is not for come if you go plant it in Obala or somewhere. So that's how the tradition affects. We have politics, but politics is mashed with traditions. This is so peculiar. We talk about Ambazonia, Southern Cameroon, British Southern Cameroon. The British understood the culture. They were in the railroad. They came to Bali. They rode through the front of Bali. The Bali people were ruled by the own. They went to Nsoh. They administered through the front of Nsoh by the culture of the Nsoh people. They did not go down the street to catch people and take taxes, for example. It was the levy, the phone need to pay, and how to collect it. And so again, I've said and I insist, the story is true. It is one too few because it has happened to others. If it does not happen, now it is your journey. If you are a traditional ruler in that capacity, whatever, go back home. Stop sitting in your own Douala, wherever. I'm thinking to be a man of chiefs. In the olden days of Ahijo, remember, when they passed the chieftaincy law in 1977, there were monuments for those chiefs for functions. But you could only have that money if you were actively sitting in the palace. If in addition to being a chief, you were, for example, a civil servant, you were limited to your civil servant salary. To get the monuments of a chief or traditional. Like you have to be in the palace doing the functions. And so a chief without functions is not chief. A fund without functions is not fund. Let us stop pretending. And I can guess this is all encouraged by the so-called elites. The elites will live in Douala. They think that they can transform their community in Douala to become the village community. No. So stop building fake, false chieftaincies, false kingdoms. Again, I sympathize with that guy. I sympathize with the people. The people have taken too much time. But it's not too much time by them. 7 weeks to me was too much time. 7 weeks to them, as I said, is a culture. They have to follow it. They follow it. Let others learn from it. That's all I can say about that. Over to you.
That's amazing right there, Pastor Mbeseha. There's just so much for us to unpack from what happened there. This is, like you said, it's happening everywhere in Ambazonia. And you see it's calculative. Now we saw this, the forum now has a residence given to him by the Bulus in Yaoundé. He has literally, because killed a fund that is supposed to be the custodian of the culture and traditions of his people, has suddenly become a bootlicker of a leader in Yaoundé. Now he cannot live in Sos because he's not sure if he's going to wake up the next morning because the people are against him. So this is a ruler, a traditional ruler that has opted by whatever means to work against his own people. That's on one hand. That's a discussion on one hand. But you see, Cameroon is constantly targeting traditional heads, especially in Mankon, in Meza. Every quarter head has been infiltrated, has been enabled, has been planted there like an enabler, who is there to investigate what is happening, try to manipulate the people against what they call the Ambazonian fighters, and so on and so forth. So this is quite sad, and that's why I'm giving all of this background information so that we get to talk about it. When you look at the situation, it's kind of complex. What will be your advice to different other communities that are facing probably similar situations, where some of them don't even have what you call policies no more? It's just a charade that has been taken over and is playing the bidding of the colonial administration. Yeah, by Mbeseha, what would you advise in such circumstances?
I will advise strongly that the African culture, and most particularly what we call Cameroon, including East Cameroon, has been influenced by culture more than a century old. In 1885, when they effectively partitioned Africa and effectively gave Cameroon to Germany, and Germany took its own share, and it did it. But fast forward 1914, when this thing was divided into two, the idea of traditional culture. Yaoundé, I've had the opportunity to say this before. If you enter Yaoundé by central post office, they moved, you're going to see the picture of a certain Atangana. Atangana is the chef de Wondo. That's why they put it there. He has a statue there. It's in uniform, military, and the mayor of Yaoundé. Was that really the king of the Wondo? Certainly not. It was the king created by the French for purposes of rule. That's why he wears a military uniform. So if we have to capture our culture, we don't need to go far to learn it. Throughout Ambazonia, we have insisted sometimes that the ideal of our cultural artifacts, of our cultural behavior, is found, call it in the grasslands, and call it in the Northwest. But that is not enough. If you go to the overall what they call Cameroon, you don't need to go far. Go to the West and see how they respect those things. See how the Sokujus have maintained their role. What makes that guy in Bambalang think that the Sultan of Fumbang, who is essentially a traditional ruler, is better than him? Why does he not think that the Sultan of Fumbang could go and plant and create another sultanate in Bolova, somewhere in Kribi? They've not done that. So if we have to recover the education, I'm not sure. That gentleman of Bambalam is to the school, gone to Enam, probably acquire some university degrees, but it's a total abuse of the culture. I'm told, as we are told there, he started by desecrating the palace in terms of religion. He brought his pastor. Well, that's a Christian pastor, but you must take note, the largest Christian denomination that we have in Africa, most particularly in Ambazonia, are the Catholics, followed by the Presbyterians and the Protestants and the Baptists. By their own religious culture, we see the same religious thing, following Christ. They have not tampered with our culture. The cathedral in Bamenda has not come to replace the fount of Ancon's Palace or the fount of Bali. The cathedral come to replace the institution, the Catholic institution. Those are Christian institutions. And so you have to know how to marry with this. They got the worship and call Jesus Christ. But Jesus Christ is on the spot. That very God that they worship, that gave birth to a guy called Jesus. It's not different from our ongoing God all over the world, but they are symbolized by different things. And so when we call him Jesus Christ, they have the same values are there, the same Christian values are there, which are included in the Bible. The Bible is not a Christian book. It's not a Baptist book. It is not a Muslim book. It's a book of morals. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not take your neighbor's wife, and so on and so forth. Respect your father and mother. These are just universal rules embodied in the Bible. And so again, let our young men and women who are forced by culture, by circumstances to assume this status, take away money. Stop fighting just because you want to get 50,000 or 100,000 bribe. You know, apart. Rare African and most importantly Cameroonian culture. In the terms of tradition, in the majority of cases, the last child in the family is the one who is even the successor. That's the youngest. He has senior sisters older than him or her many years. But they put that little boy, little girl there, symbolically to represent the culture. If it is bound to him or to her, the most senior will come and bow, not to that boy, bound to the institution. To the institution. They clap, you're not clapping to that little boy sitting there, just 18 years old, or even less than 18. But the culture, and they decided to respect it. I don't imagine that, for example, the bishop in Bafoussam will go to Fumban, because that's his religion, and desecrate the sultanate. Neither will he go to the Fakuju and do anything like that. Is Fakuju a Christian? Of course. And he might not assume a Christian name, but it's worshipping the same God. So our brothers and sisters who have been deceived to thinking that chieftaincy is what they do. Again and again, I don't know how we shall say it. A few years back, you remember, this guy in Boya told the chiefs to march behind their people. And what happened? So the chiefs in their long gowns and t-shirts stood up and marched. What tradition says they ever find a duo when they were chiefs in their own right? Yeah. Where did they ever find a good? No. Did the colonial administrator J.O. Phil in Boya ever order the chiefs of the Bakwaris, the chiefs of the Bafors, the chiefs of the Bangwas to come and march on Boya?
By Mbeseha, something very concerning you just mentioned, which I would like you to link up again. And I also like the fact that you started by explaining the evolution, how history has impacted our evolution as a people, from the Versailles Treaty, when Africa was partitioned, and transition from the League of Nations to from the League of Nations to now the United Nations. Then you've also mentioned what you just mentioned right now, which I think it's very, very important. Now, when you look at the kingdoms in Europe, and other traditional rulership in Europe, in the passage of time, there has been tremendous evolution, not just in the way the people are costumed, but also in the way that they administer. Their policies and the ways they think have been updated to suit the modern day life of the common man. When you look at the traditional architectures that are in place right now, do you think it is suitable for this generation? Because we have mostly chiefs and forums and traditional institutions that defy the same people that are supposed to be custodians, defy their people, and betray our movement. We cannot deny that funds and chiefs are among the most outlisted that have betrayed the Ambazonian liberation movement. When you look at this infrastructure, do you think it's high time for us as a people, as the youths, and the youths that are the future, like you, the elders, will say all the time, do you think it's high time for them to start calculating something different when it comes to traditional rulership or leadership?
No, I think the Ambazonian problem, let me deal with Ambazonian problem, just Africa, is that we have what described sometimes my own way, excuse me for that. A number of who I can call educated fools, educated idiots, who have gone to school, but they have refused to understand or to tune the culture to what it's supposed to be. Let us take again the Bambalang issue there. What that guy was speaking there, he showed us a stone. It just, this stone signifies a lot in that culture. Just a spot. No matter whether you have gone to the UK, you have gone to Oxford, you have gone to whatever university in the world, I'm not a PhD. The respect of that spot is important. Again, we have in our own culture, and it is almost in the whole country, what they call the sacred forest. It's not the forest where we harvest, but it's a reserved spot. It indicates a tradition where some sacrifices are offered. You don't need to go and plant 1,000 trees to call it a sacred forest. No? If you became the occupant of the palace, and you knew what forest meant, stupid, you would the most stupid educated person to go there and fell the trees inside there. So we must then match up with the education that we already acquired. No, this is symbolic based on the way the people who are formed our colony UK, they still have the monarch in England. The prime minister plays a role, and the king or queen plays a role. They are not going to change Buckingham Palace. It will remain there. If there's a room there where the queen or the king sleeps, he or she will sleep. No matter whether by the time you came to the throne, you came from Japan, you came from America, you came from anywhere. And you have witnessed it even with the British. When go marry somewhere else and evaluate the culture, they are destituted. Because there are things that a prince should not do by the British culture. Where you find yourself, Cameroun doing a mission there, where you find yourself in the UK, or you find yourself in Washington DC, and you are the prince of the Buckingham Palace. There are things if you do it, they will destitute you. They will take you away from that position, which is a position of privilege, which is a position of respect. So it is for us, and they will generate followers. In other words, the educated generation, to know that there was a reason, and there is still a reason why you have purchased distance. Should we modify it? Of course. We can modify it, but making sure the tenets remain same. You cannot find this anywhere else other than call it in this Northwest region and in the western region of Cameroon. Why? Why, for example, let us take it away. Why would Frank Biya, who wants to become the president of Cameroon, go to the north and go to see the Lamido? Lamido commands some influence, tradition. America. But he has some power. So if he says my village or my community is going this way, they will follow him there. Even though they are educated, they will follow him there. I wish we had the opportunity to see Jean de Dieu Momo. He comes from the palace of Bafu, near Chang there. He vibrates in Yaoundé there. But when he steps in Bafu, he takes the line. He cures behind us. That's in the Western region. The same shit with us. And that is the reason why I mentioned this example of what Okala Bilai did in Buya. How everybody who was obeying to that thing, I don't know who have become chiefs or who have been made chiefs. But they could sheepishly simply be that they didn't do a person to passion out and get money. They will not give them 10,000 or 50,000. And so until we respect those things, it's, for example, Moja a chief. They call him one. What he did and what he continues to do, commensurate with that title he has now. What are his peers of the same age, of the same rank, saying they're keeping quiet? The culture by the name of that title guy. And it's for us to reform our own culture. It's for us to match. No community in the world is stagnant. We shall not be stagnant. But we must move in line with what it is. That's why I've started by mentioning the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church, we had time to talk about the church here for so long. Most part of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has evolved over the years to respect the culture of the people. And back to the United Nations. The United Nations, although I did not come to scrap the church, to scrap the community. Something under United Nations is called UNESCO. United Nations Education and Culture Organization. UNESCO, that's a big organization within the United Nations. And so let us go there. Let us, no civilization in the world wants to deprive you of your own culture. And so, again, our chiefs, our elderly chiefs, whoever they find themselves, our funds now and our funds to be must learn this bitter lesson. And know that money has an end. All the money you get, all the powder you get will have an end. Institution has no end. The institution remains there. Individuals will come and go and will remain. They will be occupied by people. And the survival of the institution depends upon the respectability that we all afford to them. What to do?
That is quite brilliant. The survival of the people. So we cannot live we can live the dream, the progressive dream of our forebears, but we will not, by Mbeseha, up to live a life of our ancestors. I think, as like I've always said, that we the youths, we have to start thinking on how to have a reset of what we call traditional rulership or leadership in the Southern Cameroons, because they have been nothing but liabilities and traitors to us. Now, I want us to get into the newsroom quickly and find out what is happening around Africa and the world. We're going to come back to what is happening in Ambazonia towards the end of the program. I'm trying to leave the best. A couple of things are happening that we need to examine. I'm trying to leave the best for the last. And if you are still watching us on Facebook and on YouTube, I'd like you to take the effort to share. When you share, you are in a way partnering with us to have this information connected to the world or communicated to the world. You want to be a part of this very important call that we as a people of the Southern Cameroons have this day, as we have been mapped out for annihilation. One of the things we have to do is to make sure that our voices are not shut up. Our voices are louder than ever before. So keep sharing. We'll be right back. Let's get into the newsroom.
Yes, Mr. Paddy, we're looking more today on the African scene in the global report. We see Nigeria's national conversation has been shaped by a convergence of security developments, foreign military cooperation, and rising political agitation over electoral reforms. Security agencies continue intensified operations in parts of northern and north-central Nigeria following coordinated attacks earlier in the month that left dozens dead. Well, by February 12th, military briefings confirmed expanded counter-insurgency sweeps in vulnerable corridors, particularly in areas previously considered relatively stable outside the traditional northeast insurgent theater. We see the widening footprint of extremist violence underscoring concerns that jihadist networks are adapting and testing new operational zones. Now, amid these developments, attention turned sharply to Nigeria's evolving cooperation with the United States. And these questions are on the table. Is Nigeria standing at a defining crossroads? As the nation battles expanding terrorist threats on one front, is it also fighting a quieter but equally critical struggle, a crisis of trust in its democratic institutions? And can a country secure its territory while confidence in its electoral process remains under debate? And how would these twin pressures shape Nigeria's political and economic future? Well, let's get into the rest of the global news and find out. Do stay with us. While Nigeria continues to grapple with widespread violent extremism, with Islamist militant groups such as Boko Haram, the Islamic State West Africa Province, the ISWAP, and affiliated Sahel-linked factions carrying out frequent attacks in northern Nigeria and northern regions. We see Reuters and conflict trackers report that jihadist forces recently killed dozens of civilians and security personnel in attacks in states including Kwara State and Borno State, underscoring both the lethality and geographic reach of these insurgents. Militants have burned infrastructure, ambushed troops, and exploited porous borders with neighboring Sahel countries, intensifying humanitarian and security concerns. The persistent insecurity has prompted closer engagement with international authorities and partners. We see Nigerian authorities confirm ongoing structured cooperation with the United States to bolster counter-terrorism operations following the precision airstrikes conducted against Islamic State targets in northwest Nigeria late last year. Now, we see this collaboration includes coordinated intelligence sharing and targeted operations against extremist hideouts. Now, amid continued attacks, the United States African Command and Nigerian government have announced the deployment of approximately 200 U.S. troops to Nigeria to provide technical trainings and advisory support to Nigerian forces combating violent extremism. Now, these troops deployed at Nigeria's invitation are not authorized for direct combat, but are expected to enhance the capacity of the Nigerian armed forces through professional training, logistics support, and strategic planning. Within Nigeria's Senate and political figures have expressed mixed views on this involvement. Some lawmakers, like Senator Ali Ndume, have welcomed the backing as critical to defeating insurgent groups that have long battered Nigeria's military. Others have raised concerns about sovereignty and the need for greater legislative consultation on foreign military activities after the December strikes in Sokoto State. The significance of this cooperation extends beyond battlefield outcomes. It reflects Nigeria's urgent need for external support after more than 17 years of insecurity and insecurities that have displaced communities and also disrupted markets and hindered development across multiple states. We see the trend of hashtag Occupy NAS amid the political tension. In the nation's capital, Peter Obi, former presidential candidate and current leader in the African Democratic Congress, he joined hundreds of demonstrators in the hashtag Occupy NAS protest outside the National Assembly complex in Abuja. Here you see Peter Obi standing with protesters at the National Assembly gates on 9th February, a moment that crystallized public demand for real-time electronic transmission of election results in the Electoral Act amendment process. Let's take a look.
Simple transmission. It's not a difficult thing. Allow the elections to go through the normal process. Whoever wins will accept. So why are you bringing all sorts of confusion?
Well, protesters are demanding the reinstatement of mandatory real-time electronic transmission of election results in the ongoing Electoral Act amendment, a reform that they argue is essential for transparency and the credibility of future polls. Senators recently removed the explicit real-time provision, a move critics see as weakening safeguards against manipulation, prompting weeks of mass mobilization and high-profile political engagement at the protest site. The protest underscores mounting public frustration with legislative practices perceived as self-serving or opaque. Many Nigerians view the Senate's actions, including earlier controversial votes on other high-profile legislative items, as evidence of a double standard in representing the electorate's call for accountable governance. The hashtag Occupy NAS movement has become a flashpoint in broader debates about electoral integrity and democratic reform ahead of the 2027 general elections. Well, there's still more, as separately Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan has publicly suggested exploring partnerships with projects such as Starlink to improve internet connectivity ahead of upcoming elections, reflecting a growing conversation about how digital infrastructure can support transparency, especially in remote or undeserved areas. The conversation emerged in the context of debate over the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, proposed the 1.1 trillion 2026 budget, 1.1 trillion naira. Now, with advocates highlighting the need for reliability and reliable connectivity to support electoral reforms and participation. But then away from Nigeria and onto the African Union, we see today, February 14th, 2026, African heads of state convened in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, for the 39th ordinary session of the Assembly of the African Union. At the 39th African Union Summit in Addis Ababa, we see Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed outlining a bold vision for Africa's future in terms of green cities, digital transformation, AI innovation, and climate justice. Well, let's take a look.
Restoring dignity and strengthening community life. As Africa's urban landscape expands rapidly, we must be intentional. The African city of the future is walkable, green, youth-centered, and grounded in dignity and belonging. In rural areas, modernization is enhancing livelihoods, connecting communities to markets. This integrated approach links development with climate stewardship. One expression of this is the Green Legacy Initiative. We have planted more than 48 billion trees, restoring ecosystems and building a living legacy for future generations. Yet, the global development pathway has come at immense environmental cost. costs borne by communities far beyond those responsible. Therefore, climate action must be anchored in justice and equity, aligning finance, technology, and partnership to enable Africa to thrive. In this spirit, we hosted the second Africa Climate Summit, and we are preparing to host COP32, ensuring Africa speaks with one voice and presents solutions to the globe.
Well, the summit opens at a time when multiple crises converge across the continent, escalating Sahel insecurity, displacement emergencies, economic restructuring pressures, and climate-related vulnerabilities. Leaders are deliberating on continental security coordination, funding gaps for humanitarian crises, and strategies to strengthen African-led peace operations. The Sahel remains a dominant concern, with displacement figures exceeding 4 million across Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Climate resilience is also central to the agenda, particularly as African nations face mounting adaptation costs while contributing minimally to global emissions. Discussions include financing mechanisms, water security, and regional infrastructure coordination. The significance of this summit lies in its timing, with shifts in global geopolitics and evolving partnerships with Western, Middle Eastern, and Asian powers. African leaders are recalibrating alliances while emphasizing greater self-reliance in security management. The Addis deliberations may influence the direction of regional security frameworks and collective diplomatic posture for the year ahead. Well, rescue agencies continued recovery efforts following the capsizing of a migrant vessel off Libya's coast earlier in the week is another story. We see dozens were confirmed dead or missing after attempting the Mediterranean crossing towards Europe. Survivors' accounts indicate overcrowding and inadequate safety measures, conditions that remain common along the migration routes. Many of those aboard were reportedly from sub-Saharan Africa, including regions destabilized by conflict and economic hardship. The tragedy reinforces the interconnected nature of Africa's crisis, insecurity in the Sahel, economic strain in parts of West Africa, and limited safe migration pathways combine to push vulnerable populations towards perilous journeys. Now, despite repeated international pledges to address root causes and expand legal migration channels, Mediterranean crossings continue. The February 2026 incident adds to a growing toll that underscores the human cost of unresolved instability across parts of the continent. Now, across the wider Sahel region, stretching from the Atlantic coast to the Red Sea, Islamist insurgencies and transnational crimes continue to destabilize several nations. Armed group activities remain intense in countries such as Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, where violent extremist organizations have played a central role in repeated coups, displacement of civilians, and widespread insecurity. But then analysts highlight that these groups have carried out multiple lethal attacks against military targets and civilians, stretching thin the already strained capacities of local security forces. In response, the recently established Alliance of Sahel States formally launched a 5,000-strong joint military force intended to tackle Islamist insurgencies and transnational crime across borders. Now, this development marks a significant shift towards coordinated regional security efforts and represents an attempt to reclaim territory and stability from extremist networks that have exploited state fragility. The Sahel's security dynamic has broader implications for West and Central Africa. Spillover violence, including cross-border raids and recruitment, has made regional cooperation essential, while the withdrawal of certain multinational task force contributors has previously contributed to instability and increased militant activity. Nations in the region now face mounting pressure to balance internal politics and internal political transitions with external security threats. Well, these are the happenings on Africa, in the continent of Africa. And with that, we'll be handing the baton back over to our news director, Mr. Tarh Paddy King.
That was an amazing coverage there, Star Smart. You started from Nigeria, elaborately talking to us about the election. I'm very concerned by Star Mbeseha. We're going to talk on the truth of the report that Star covered, mostly Africa, and I'm pleased with that because it really is something. It's a similar story where African leadership just doesn't want what is right. I've been following the news in neighboring Nigeria for the past 2 weeks. You realize the Senate is just a stooge to the sitting president. They are not willing for electoral reforms. They want to act like elect come in neighboring the Republic of Cameroun. Nobody is willing to have a free and fair elections. And what is the impact? Leadership becomes a problem. There is a humanitarian crisis. Youths are trying to flee away because they cannot make a decision of their own in their land. And then France is still trying to their way into the Sahel somehow to see how they can dismantle the force that is there, that is purely Pan-African, and so on and so forth. So it's a critical situation that Africa needs to be on the watch. But let's begin with what is happening in neighboring Nigeria and the criminality that is in motion right now. By Mbeseha, please.
Well, one with Nigeria, I would. And again, before I start to deal with it, I will give an overall statement I made here earlier. Nigeria is supposed to be a giant Africa. It is a giant in terms of population. It's a giant in terms of resources. It's a giant in everything you can imagine. And so, ever said, insisted that it wanted a seat at the United Nations, a permanent seat at the United Nations. And I asked earlier, if that seat were to come to Africa, who would assume it? The people who would rightfully postulate for that position include Nigeria, South Africa, maybe Egypt, maybe Ghana, maybe Ethiopia. But why are they so deficient? Are these people who could assume a role on the international scene to be at parity with the United States, to be at parity with the UK, with France, with Russia, and with China? These are the 5 other permanent members of the Security Council. They are not, because they don't want to do it. Let us take it back to Nigeria. When I talk Nigeria, the security problem, Boko Haram, is not a foreign force invading Nigeria. It's a domestic group of people. They didn't descend from the moon to attack Sokoto. They live there, they know them. Nigeria, by its might and by whatever thing militarily, they have more than 100,000. If you count their military by head, they will have more than 100,000 troops, active troops. But what are they doing? They are signing a contract with the United States to do what? To give them 200 people, 200, to come help them train their soldiers, to come help them be able to dictate the activities of criminals. What are the American 200 coming to do? They even said that we are not going to intervene in your war. We don't have you give it intelligence. Why can Nigeria not have that intelligence? All over the world, in the UK, in the United States, around the world, anywhere you go, you're going to find Nigerians spotted everywhere at the best places. They are the best intellectuals. They have the education. If you come, maybe send that 200, find among the 200, there will be 5 Nigerians or 10. So why can't we do security by itself? Why? Why do they need 200 soldiers from the US? These people are coming just with drones. These are machines that buy. That's technology that they work on. Is Nigeria not capable of acquiring these drones? They are. They don't want it because they don't want to have it, not because it is impossible for them. But back to the dynamics and the politics of the situation. Can this very Nigeria, which is so-called 340, 350 million people, which is the same, almost the same like the United States, can they stand at par with the President of the United States, whoever is the President of the United States, be it Clinton, be it Donald Trump, be it Obama? Can they say, well, we're equals? They cannot. They cannot. And so they are beggars to the worst of their intent. Their own problem are self-inflicted. Nobody can convince me, this is my opinion, that Boko Haram is existing without the knowledge of people in Nigeria. They are Nigerians doing all those things. Why are they not able to bring them down? War is won in the battlefield. But before you win a war on the battlefield, you have to address the root causes of the problem. There was a federal government of Nigeria and all the states in Nigeria affected by Boko Haram. Do they not know exactly the real cause of Boko Haram? If they don't know, something is wrong with them. They will address the root causes, and they will not need Britain, they will not need the United States to come and train the soldiers for them. They will not. And fast forward again, as you say, this is Africa, this is Nigeria. We talk about elections. Why are the elections so unreliable in Nigeria? Same like Cameroun, like anywhere else in Africa. Why are they so unreliable? Why do we believe in the American system more than you believe in the Nigerian system or the British system? Are these people conducting the United States, for example, superhuman beings? No. The only difference is that the people in America are not going to the back room, counting this thing with their finger, 1 to 10, 20 to 30 with their fingers. They have bought what we call voting machines. Voting machines can be bought in the market. The makers are there. You buy it and pay the price. And then at least they will guarantee a reasonable proportion of the elections. Why did they do it? Because they themselves are thieves. They don't want their own thieves. And so, if by the election, if they can install voter machines, they are unable to install it. Why would they not be unable to? Because they cannot even, that thing functions on electricity. Because they cannot have electricity, that thing will die on the road. But by the time it is 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock, the thing will break down. Is it that they don't know how to do it? No. They don't know how to do it. Is it, for example, there in Cameroun, you could not install voters' machines, even in Douala and Yaoundé? They know those things. They are better than all of us put together. But the problem that we have, as I've said earlier, educated thieves, educated fools. Who designed the system in Cameroun or in Nigeria? Educated people, intellectuals, perhaps with degrees from Harvard, from London, from Oxford. They sat down and designed those things, properly put there to steal. And so, how do you expect to have an election that you rely on when day one, the people who designed the system for elections was created to fraud? It was fraud orientated. The ones in Cameroun, for example, those who put out all these laws, they are the owners. One is reputed to have been constitutional person in Cameroun, and a graduate. But he put out a constitution that was designed to fail, that was designed to save the Betty people. This is Ambazonia fighting. Let's not forget, in 1991-92, when they were doing that constitution, what are eminent sons and daughters there? What the Professor Anyanguis, the Monzus, the Elas, they put out the proposal to make a constitution that will work. What did Owana do? They didn't even reply to it, but they saw it, and they kept it quiet. So the country was there, reputed to be one of the greatest people in the country. He saw it, he kept quiet. He knew that demanding for something that will happen tomorrow. He knew that we cannot give Anglophones to call it what they want, because they are subhuman beings. And what did they do? Somewhere they planted inside the very considerably something called special state. Mastered by Kanto. Remember, at the end of this war, somebody asked Kanto, what will you do with Anglophone independence? He said, Cameroun are the face on. It is very calm to reminded them in the Ghana National Dialogue that they have something in the called special status. Is something like a mistake? No. Design sheet and reforms, designed by intellectuals, designed by skillful thieves. And so this is the same thing that is happening across Africa. If Africans cannot do anything, it is not because they lack the personnel, no. Because they have the people dotted everywhere. We Ambazonians, for example, if we became a state today, we'll have people everywhere. Not in Cameroon, not in Nigeria, around to find the best that we can find there. But until they are prepared to make the things work, it will not work. And so again, back to African Union we were talking there. African Union is there. You hear where the Ethiopian guy talking theories, but why have they not implemented what they have? They are not willing to do it. And the last I discovered from the African Union was that as of yesterday, they closed and they voted the new person, the new chair of the African Union, to run for 1 year. Who is the new chair of the African Union? It is the president of Burundi. What is Burundi? Burundi, in terms of size and population, is not even up to the southwest, they call it. It's not up to that. They're able to sit in the African Union, they're able to assume those high positions that mean nothing. And again, why is Africa doing all this? Why are we suffering like this? Well, first, our elites are actually dishonest, intellectually dishonest. I watch system. I watch debates over there. We have Ambazonians, for example, we talk about we're Pan-Africanists. We're Pan-Africanists. If the Africa they call have asked the question, they will become Pan-African. Shall abolish all the existing boundaries to create one country called Africa. Or they will maintain the boundaries. It will maintain the boundaries, 99% of which were drawn by the colonial masters. Why is it that they cannot even insist on Cameroon respecting the same boundary that was drawn by the colonial master? So that Cameroon and Ambazonia are small, will assume their role, their own private position, like Burundi has done. Just like Lesotho, just like any other country, most countries in Africa are colonially designed. You cannot blame colonialism anymore because all the boundaries were designed by the colonial master. Like them or not, African political leaders accepted the boundaries when they said in Article 4 of their Charter B that they shall respect their boundaries as of independence. That's what they wrote down in writing. And so if you have to respect your boundaries as of independence, our Ambazonian people, who are they postulating for something that is legally wrong? What is wrong in respecting that boundary? When you read, for example, the Green Tree Agreement, where they say they should draw the boundary of Cameroon from Lake Chad to the Atlantic Ocean. Who drew that boundary? Was it drawn by Nigeria and Cameroon? No, it was drawn by the colonial master. And did that boundary show that Cameroon today had any boundary with Nigeria? No, it showed nothing like that. Nigeria shared the boundary with the British administer Cameroon, not with French administer Cameroon. But we find our people who are so educated, who are so well postulated in dishonesty. Tell the truth as it is. This is to Ambazonia. The same applies to Africa. Nigeria, fight your own wars. If you mean to defeat Boko Haram, militarily or politically, you would. You don't need the assistance of 200 people from the United States to do it. If you need people, are getting them. Recall the Nigerians in London, in China, and you have other expertise available to you. Deploy a bit of the money. So is rich. I saw a program today. What the Niger, where France is fighting to death in the subsoil, is exactly the same thing they have in northern Nigeria. And so we have all these abilities, and we are not in them. Either we are dishonest or we are incapable of doing things. Shall Africa survive? At this rate, we will not survive. We are calling on somebody to bring action to Cameroon. Why? Why do you want to come and help us to die? If this man is, and he is, I did not develop most of the intellectual in the National Assembly and Polish term limit. The intellectual there who stood up and said, look, I don't like this abolition. A CPDM guy, a magistrate, may rest in peace, Ayapo. He's the only man who voted against term limit. And for voting against term limit, what did he do? They plotted his death, his political death, and his physical death. With the open eyes of his own brothers and sisters sitting there in the so-called parliament, in the so-called government. They hunted him down, took him from his house, locked him up, punished him until he died. And we expect the British, the Americans, the French, the Japanese, the Russians to come help us. They will not come. If they come, there is no free lunch. You pay the price. Maybe the freedom you want. The price will be the economy that you don't want. Over to you. Over to you, Paddy.
There's something I really want us to talk about. We're going to come back to it more. But you're looking at the collateral damage of this leadership criminality in Africa, almost across every region in Africa. And the youths, we've just seen the report there with youths still dying at the high sea every day because you have old men in power not even willing to leave. They want to manipulate election. Youths are in misery. Some prefer to just die at the high sea than to be in this misery. What would you tell the youths to do when they are even being intimidated with guns? Look at what happened in neighboring La Republic du Cameroun. I would call them wiggly, but it's a critical situation because they have been educated to think that beer is indispensable and they have guns at their heads. And that's the exact same thing happening in neighboring Nigeria right now, where even protesters are being intimidated. How should African youths, as a collective, begin to mobilize themselves internationally to make sure that they can change the trajectory, at least for the next generation in the up or the next 10 years?
I think the problem that we face all the time is that we make the mistake of thinking that the world started today. Dictatorship around the world did not start with Cameroon. It did not start with Africa. Dictatorship existed long before African independence. Louis XIV was not yesterday. Kaiser, this German guy, was not yesterday. It was many decades, if not more than a century ago. So dictatorship prevails over you by force, by torture, by frightening you. Yes, people and dying in the oceans. I'm talking about the United States. I will not tell you not to come, but I will not tell you to risk your life coming. Because if you risk your life and come, there's very little you can do to reform the system back home. You might reach, you might not reach. But thinking that you will do it from here is not going to work. Those people who are there, they have to stand up and fight what is theirs. About the fund of Bambala, who is being dethroned. You find that guy who made the audio speaking good English. He's an educated man. But he's that nonsense of his fund of Bambala. Right in the village, he's not making the audio in the United States. He's not making it in London. He's making it right in the bush there. He saw him pointing to spot there. That's how, no matter how powerful that young man they call the fund of Bambala is, I'm sure he's chilled to his bones right now. So they take the reform from within, from side. But we have to understand what is going on there. If you understand what is going on, you wouldn't be able to do it. The one in Cameroon, for example, is entrenched criminality. And we can find that entrenched criminality. It is headed by oligarchs who are rich, people who are powerful. What is the strength? The strength is to subdue you. They will kill you like they kill Anissa Ekane. They will kill you like they kill Martinez Zogo. They will kill like they have killed others. That's a symptom of dictatorship. Can you do that, for example, in North Korea? Is North Korea in Africa? No, it's not in Africa. So it is for the people there to stand up and say enough is enough. I gave the example sometimes ago, 2-3 weeks ago, where the youths refused to stand up for their own rights. If they asked for their own rights, for example, what's going on in Cameroun today would not have gone on today, would have finished. Two events happened. The most important one, in my own opinion, was this. He found this guy blocking the roads in Betrayal with trucks, trailers, put 16 of them there. And what happened? Instead of they have the telephone, they're all drivers have telephones, and they have a union. Instead of calling on their colleagues in Douala to do the same thing in Douala and Yaoundé, to do the same thing between Douala and to do the same thing between Gaoundé and Garoua, they stood there. A certain Tanganji ordered the caterpillar to pull down their trucks. And they pulled down the truck. What did they do? They all walked away. And the revolution failed. Those guys with those trucks did not need to go to university to bring down the government. If they had persisted only for 2 days, there's no way Yaoundé will survive within 72 hours without trucks flying from Douala to Yaoundé. They would not. They would not. And so again, it is up to the African in general to reform itself. If you are counting on somebody coming from outside, they would come, but they would reform your own system on their own terms. You remember earlier, what did Trump do? He had some places in Sokoto, somewhere in Nigeria, claiming to kill Boko Haram. And what has happened? Tinubu was cowed. He's going there to beg them. What did the American government do? They came and said, okay, we'll help you in Congo, provided you allow us to export your minerals. He said they're making peace between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. That peace does not come from. There's not Trump doing it. If American is doing it, he's not doing it to help, be whoever. Forgotten that the Boko Haram started after the Gaddafi. Who killed Gaddafi in Libya? Was it Donald Trump? No. It was another similar man, black guy called Obama, led by France, with France. They came and killed Gaddafi. Not because he had done anything. They saw this guy. This guy had an African community half day. Where of things for the American government came and killed him. That the American government was led by a black man, Obama. That occasion was orchestrated by France. And today, with the weapons that they let loose in Libya, everybody has weapons in North Nigeria. There's Boko Haram empowered. And then France will come in to create a peacekeeping force, to create something somewhere in Mali, in Burkina Faso, to pretend to survey the movement of Boko Haram in the desert. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
So who don't see this? If you don't see this, there's something wrong with you. So what it is, if you bring in the Russians, they will do it on their terms. If you bring in the Chinese, they will do it on their terms. Bring in the Americans, they will do it on their own terms. And their terms will not be the ones that favor you. They would have their interest first. If the interest is, for example, like the Congo, to exploit your rich minerals, they will say, okay, we'll take this thing out, exploit it for 1,000 years, whatever length of time, provided they will come and kill 2-3 people and top them. And so on and so forth. And so let the Africans, governments and individuals stand up to the task. And there's the African knowledge everywhere who are wonderfully intelligent. You'll find Africans
So
in general.
By Mbeseha, at the end of the day, we're talking about the soul of Africa. And your take in this discourse is for the youth to take accountability and to take responsibility in their hands. And we cannot completely discredit youths in certain countries who probably have been empowered because, like you mentioned, they don't have collective support. And my concern was that collectivism to be instigated in the spirit and minds of African youths so they can take responsibility. For instance, in neighboring Nigeria, we have this young media influencer that has really been making the waves. He has been very vocal, very persistent consistent, he is very articulate, and he is seemingly someone that is galvanizing, encouraging, energizing the youths to rally behind him and to get this. Let's watch him in a bit so we can get some insight into some of the details of this effort. Maybe by so doing, it would inspire some who are watching this program to take responsibility in their own various sphere of contact. And after that, we'll conclude this segment so we can go back into the home front and find out exactly what is happening in Ambazonia.
It's good to be with you, Ma. Nigeria is in trouble. Nigeria is in crisis. It is unfortunate that the National Assembly, that is supposed to be the hallmark of a democracy, that should protect the interest of the citizens and our well-being, today, under the leadership of Mr. Godswill Obodakpabio, has not only become a rubber stamp Senate, the current Senate is basically an extension of the presidency, operating under the whims and caprices of the executive arm of government. So if President Tinubu asks Senate and House leadership to jump up, the question will be how high. It has become almost an APC town hall where people are singing and standing upon a mandate which they shall collapse. But that is not even just the problem. The National Assembly today has become a dangerous institution, weaponized against the Nigerian people, and have proven to be only capable of aiding and sustaining corruption and criminality in government. And this INEC budget is just one of so many. So the INEC chairman, Professor Joash Amukpiton, has presented a budget of 873 billion. The question will be, what exactly are we using all this amount of money to do? Is that not what a reasonable legislative arm of government should be overseeing? Because in Nigeria we spend billions of naira, and the tragedy is that at the end of this process, everybody will then sit down and wait for the tribunal and the courts to pick leaders. That is the judicialization of our democracy. But then again, let us go into the details. The INEC chairman said about 200 billion of this money is set aside for electronic technology. Anti-root electronic technology, when the same National Assembly has passed a clause that says where there is no enough network, we should go back to the same manual method that has been giving us glitches and rigged elections. Nigerians have told the INEC chairman what exactly is the technology to be procured with 200 billion. If we do not have confidence in our own telcos to provide network on election day, INEC should immediately go into a partnership with Starlink so that the 177,000 plus polling units in Nigeria can have Starlink network guaranteed. It will cost less than 100 billion. But somehow nobody is ready to scrutinize because it is all a conduit for criminality. Do you know that in INEC, every election, INEC has been granting contract to certain persons to provide electronic technology? If there is no mischief, and this is not a work between both INEC and the lawmakers, when there was a glitch in 2023, after Mahmoud Yakubu received more than 300 billion and said 150 something billion was for electronic technology, when there was a glitch, Anti-Root and Nigerians, who has called the contractors who handled that project to book? Which of the contractors was charged to court? Which of them has been held accountable? We are still budgeting another 200 billion for the same electronic technology. So as it is today, nobody knows the contractors in INEC, who are the persons printing sensitive materials. And guess what? This is not just the budget for INEC. This is for this year, 2026. INEC will have another budget for 2027. If they need a supplementary budget, it will be given. But we do not equate the money we spend vis-a-vis the quality of elections we have. Do you know that from the Senate public hearings, in the Ministry of Solid Minerals headed by Mr. Dele Alake, Nigeria is still budgeting 6 billion plus to pay salaries of staff in Ajaokuta Steel Company. Have you been to Ajaokuta Steel recently? A place that has been overrun with rats and reptiles. So that is what exactly is going on in the National Assembly. Who is approving the funds for INEC and other parastatals? Who is insisting to know exactly what is being done with this money? So we just continue to have this over-bloated budget. But for now, the Senate says they are having an extraordinary session on the 17th, which is on Tuesday. Nigerians must insist that the mandatory real-time electronic transmission of result is passed, and not only passed, we want to know exactly what INEC is spending taxpayer money to do, not to spend billions of naira and end up with a glitch. It is unacceptable. If there are free and fair elections in Nigeria today, President Tinubu and his APC gang, their defeat will be announced before 1 p.m. on election day. They know that they have no path to victory in 2027, and that is why they rely on the defected governors who are standing upon a mandate which they shall collapse. You know why? When you do manual coalition, it empowers the gatekeepers in those states, the governors and political office holders, to be able to influence and to pretend over those institutions, so they can rewrite figures. You can see the kind of mutilations that happened in Obiakpo and other parts of the country. So that is why you see politicians continue to push for this manual system. Nigerians must know that the more people come out to vote, the more difficult it is to rig. There is a deliberate attempt. That is why you can see everybody. If not, ask yourself the question. President Tinubu has more than 30 governors standing upon a mandate. They have the entire National Assembly. They have the judiciary. They have the police. Only INEC has not declared officially to stand upon the mandate which it shall collapse. Yet they have inaugurated city boys, township boys, everything boys, renewed hunger, renewed rascality, renewed whatever. So why are you still afraid of free and fair elections? Why are you afraid of one single clause, mandatory real-time transmission of results, which INEC has said we can do? It is mischievous. Nigerians must wake up and know that this is your opportunity to choose your leaders. Our lives will not move forward until our votes begin to count. We must insist on it.
It is shocking. That means, like, I've been following this guy for a while. The good thing is he's not just another social media noise maker or another activist that is seeking for clout. This is somebody that is well read, is learned, he is very articulate, and like I said before I played this video, has been very consistent. But Mbeseha, the shocking part is the government in place is willing to spend money for trivialities, for something that they could get something cheaper from Elon Musk, Starlink. Natasha, the parliamentarian, the female parliamentarian, has suggested that, hey, if you're claiming you're going to have network issues, partner with Elon Musk. He's going to go even into the darkest villages in the most cruel times and make sure that we are not going to have no glitch. And then you want to ask the question, why are these people fighting this? My purpose for this video, because I thought somebody is supposed to watch this. Fighting his own battle as a youth, that's a youth. That's why I said I cannot just discredit youths entirely, because there are a couple of youths that are doing a lot of. I would have been in Cameroun, for instance, myself today, living a very good life. I had no reason leaving Cameroun. I probably would have been among some of the youths you see gallivanting around the Prime Minister's office today, touring the world, because they want to use them to provoke us, what they call Anglophones, who have chosen to rebel against the system. Some of them have been trained by me in whatever they claim they are representing in culture. But it takes someone who has Africa or their country or their nation in spirit to make sacrifices. I watched him at one time. He was saying that he knows the consequences of what he's doing when he is walking in the face of dictatorship. He can die at any moment. He can be picked up for one very foolish reason. He can just be locked up. Mr. Mbeseha, I want you to conclude this with France's intrusion after watching that video, so we can move into some of the stories coming in from the home front. Tabitha is right there, already seated and waiting.
I think what we're doing, you see, the problem of Africa in general, Nigeria in particular, and Cameroon, is not that we lack these young men. These young men are educated, they're informed. What the young men is perfect. I can take it out of Nigeria and to other places. Same would apply. If it's the same thing, people were educated like that guy, like Martinez, like Wazizi in Cameroon, and hundreds of others, who will cry the foul where they see it. But I will 4 years old people who have taken hostage this whole system, who have owned the system directly and indirectly. They would rather kill you than reform. It is not because they don't know. Like he says, if you talk about Nigeria, talk about their Senate, talk about what, talk about what. We also have in Cameroon something they call the Senate. We have something in Cameroon we call the House of Assembly. But throughout the whole history of the House of Assembly in Cameroon, from 1961 to today, I don't recognize any single law that has ever been passed in Cameroon, initiated by the House of Assembly. No. All laws in Cameroon come from the president. Mandatory, you must adopt the laws. And all laws coming from the president are designed to please the president. You will say this is a law about this. Then somewhere you will say presidential decree will do this. That's the same person. The constitution came from the presidency. I'm dealing with Cameroon. The laws emanating in the country are from it. They must be endorsed by the assembly appointed by him, by the Senate appointed by him. In Cameroon, for example, out of 100 senators, 70 of whom pretend to be voted, 30 are the appointees of the president. I said, how do you expect it to work? But what are these people appointed to these offices? Are they dwarfs? No. Are they stupid people? Are they villagers? No. They are very intelligent people. People who graduates of Harvard, graduates of London, of Cambridge, and other good universities. Who could imagine, for example, I'm not ashamed to say this, who could imagine that a guy like Ngole, who has a PhD in something they call political science, wherever he was trained, got that thing by merit. He will come back to Cameroon. What is his best job? To become the principal of a CPDM school. That lies and destroys the people. Can we fault Ngole for being uneducated? No. He has a PhD from a foreign university. How was he dealing with it? Election time, Ngole is the first man to go to Yasoso, to go to those bushes, contribute money and say, vote for Bia, so that he can continue to maintain me as the principal of the school. It's a CPDM in the school that is owned by the government. No, it's a political party school. But who pays him? The treasury. He's paid by the treasury, not the CPDM. And then he amazed this. And hundreds of others are the same. And so it is not of youth. No, we have very visionary youths across Africa. But we have, until we overcome it, we have an aged, educated group of thieves who have stolen the whole system, be it Tinubu, be it Paul Biya, be it anybody else around the world, around Africa. They've stolen the system for their own private advantages. In the terms of Cameroon, for example, if Paul haven't enough, he put his wife, he put his cousins, he put his who take their wives to take off. Is it because see these things? If you watch Equinox, these things are we sing the thing like quiet there. Everybody is saying it, but nobody has the power to bring them down. Whose fault is it? Is it yours or mine who are talking like this? You and me can only talk. Your man can only talk. What can he do? There's a elections in Nigeria. Nobody is accountable. But that's not new. We have seen how our schools are failing. This Cameroon, when we go 1 or 15 billion to Peters for universities. As of today, what are those costs? None exist. Have we paid that loan? No. What I put in, they're keeping quiet. 2 days ago, they go and force the same university students who were supported from those students to go out and march, clapping for phobia. So, what we do, we have to resist. That's all. Because nothing lasts forever. They will be overcome. Africa will be free. Cameroon will be free. That's all I can say about that. Over to you. Over to you, Paddy.
And you hear from Mbeseha lots of visionary youth. There are lots of visionary youths in Ambazonia. I believe in the youths of Ambazonia. I am a youth, so I know what I'm saying. It took the youthful generation of Ambazonia to have changed the trajectory of our story like it is today. I want to remind you, in 1961, they intimidated our forebears. They manipulated Fonja, intimidated them. In 1972, they went to Fumban, manipulated them, bullied some, bribed some. In 1984, they just bullied them. They cut from Gojidinka and a lot of them. In 1992, the wavering spirit again stood up. They bullied them, killed them. In 2016, no, it was a spirit of a youth that will not take no for an answer. And it's been 10 years and counting. They caught us 2 cubes of sugar. They've been unsuccessful. And that's why those who have foresight, those who understand this history, they understand where we're coming from. Why people who left Nigeria came to form a nation. Our institutions were destroyed. We were disarmed. We were emotionally blackmailed, intimidated. We were told that we're not fit enough. We were made to feel inferior. That's our story. Where we're coming from, they don't understand. We were made to flee from our country, scattered in all parts of the world. And today, we have mobilized ourselves together and we're forging ahead. And so what they're trying to do is to disintegrate this mobilized structure of a youthful population through manipulation. And we must not let that happen. I thought this story of narrating what is happening in neighboring Nigeria, how some youths, in spite of the gross criminality, are still standing up, was a good lesson for us to listen to in Ambazonia. For those who are watching us at the home front, we're getting into an important phase of this conversation of tonight, and that's where we're going to conclude, is to find out, because our responsibility with Ambazonia this week, every week, is to endeavor to investigate, to report the site of the news that Equinox, STV, Canado, CRTV will not report. Our objective is to get into the soul of Ambazonia and tell the side of the story that nobody's talking about. And Tabitha is right there in the newsroom now, waiting to tell us that. We'll be back. Don't go away. Keep sharing and share.
Good evening, Ambazonia. Thank you, Mr. Tarh. Now, coming on from the home front, we got this report from Kumbo. The Cameroun news agency reports that a suspected armed gang has abducted about 15 students of government bilingual high school Kumbo in Buyi County. According to the report, the students were returning home when armed men intercepted them and forced them onto motorbikes before taking them to an unknown destination. The gang members are said to be accusing the students of taking part in Youth Day celebrations at the Tobin Municipal Stadium, an event Ambazonia State Army have consistently opposed in conflict-affected areas. This incident highlights a concerning pattern in the conflict where civilians, including minors, are punished for actions beyond their control. Students often participate in such events under school or administrative instruction, raising concerns about collective punishment. The Ambazonia Defense Forces, a separatist militia, has been accused of similar actions in the past, including kidnappings and attacks on civilians to enforce school boycotts and resistance measures. Local authorities have not made an official statement, and the students' condition and whereabouts remain unknown. Now, that's a report coming, and moving over to Untumbo. In Untumbo, we have this current ongoing report from Untumbo. Residents of Untumbo in Ambazonia have raised serious allegations following recent violence that left parts of the community devastated. Local sources claim that individuals they identify as key organizers worked in coordination with members of the Colonial French Cameroun forces. According to community testimonies, a figure identified as Ardo Dabi is alleged to have played a central role in mobilizing Mbororo and Fulani groups from areas including Gidado and surrounding settlements. Residents further allege that he worked in a collaboration with administrative authorities, including D.O. Musa and Mayor Borno. No official statements have been released confirming these allegations. Community members claim that individuals involved in the Ntumbo attacks were transported from Gidado alongside military personnel stationed there. Some residents allege that the colonial military, French Cameroon security officers in Ntumbo did not intervene despite distress calls from civilians. These accounts suggest communication between the French military unit in different localities. However, authorities have not publicly addressed these specific accusations. Further allegations indicate that certain members of local vigilante groups were prevented from accessing weapons that could have been used in defense of the community during the incident. These claims remain unverified. Residents also assert that preparations may be underway for additional attacks in surrounding areas such as Ndu, Nkambe, and Unwa. Some sources describe long-standing tensions between communities exacerbated by the broader Ambazonia war, which has fueled mistrust between local populations and state authorities. The situation is unfolding against the backdrop of the protracted conflict between colonial French Cameroon forces and the Ambazonian State Army, who seek independence for Ambazonia. The ongoing crisis has led to repeated accusations from various sides, including claims of ethnic manipulation, militarization of civilian spaces, and collective punishment. Human rights observers have consistently called for independent investigations into incidents of violence in the Cameroon. They stress the importance of verifying claims, protecting civilians regardless of ethnic identity, and ensuring accountability where abuses are confirmed. At the time of reporting, there has been no official response from the individuals named in the allegations. Calls are still growing within the community for transparency, impartial inquiry, and measures to prevent further escalation. Now, this is what is happening right there in Ntumbo, but we'll definitely bring you more details regarding that. Moving over to this report. In a momentous announcement on February 13, 2026, Pope Leo XIV appointed Reverend Father John Nsoh Tarh as Auxiliary Bishop of the Archdiocese of Bamenda. The news was met with jubilation at St. Joseph Metropolitan Cathedral, where clergy, religious leaders, and members of Christian community gathered to celebrate the occasion. Father Nsoh's journey to the episcopate has been marked by hardship and service. In November 2025, he was kidnapped while returning from the opening ceremony of a Catholic university in Ndop. The incident sparked widespread concern, prompting Archbishop Andrew Inkia of Bamenda to write a strongly worded letter demanding his release. The Archbishop's bold response, which included the temporary closure of Catholic churches and institutions in the Ndop area, drew national attention and highlighted the church's role in addressing the ongoing crisis in Cameroon. Meanwhile, Father Nsoh's appointment is seen as a state testament to his resilience and faith. For many, it symbolizes hope, renewal, and the victory of faith over hardship. Church leaders will announce details of his ordination and pastoral responsibilities soon. The Catholic community in Bamenda and beyond is celebrating this milestone, hailing it as an inspiring journey from captivity to a higher calling in the church. Now, this is all coming from the home front. This is where we'll be heading it over back to Mr. Tarh and our commentators on today's episode.
That's simply amazing. Yeah, you probably would have witnessed some of that developing in the course of the week, because you do travel, you do all with the news. Please just do some brief commentaries there before I get into what is really happening. Who are plotting this massacre, consistent massacre, and you would think that it's from afar, it's just close. This consistent massacre against the people of Ambazonia. Please talk to us. Yeah, by Mbeseha, I'm sure you did not, please. By Mbeseha, can you hear me?
I do hear you.
Okay, yes. So I mentioned you watched the reports there by Tabitha, and I know during the week you always spend some time to do some with the ladies. So you see it up before we get to talk about them in the course of the show. But I'm saying I'd like you to make a brief commentary of the reports you've heard there before we can now revisit in 3 cases, 2 actors that are being used by the Cameroonian government to do all of this. Please talk to us.
Yes, let me start with the adoption of 15 students. You see, when an event occurs like that, watch for 2 things. 1, the reaction of the administration. Because it is the administration in place which is supposed to ensure the security of the children. Watch for the adopters. What would they say for adopting the children? Up to this point, we have not heard anything from the administration, to the best of our knowledge. Neither has there been any demand for ransom. And so, therefore, once the administration is silent over their own failures, what is their failure? Their failure is something they might in it. When they are silent and they don't even promise their so-called investigation that they never, think twice, it is theirs. They might, just might be. They wanted to paint Ambazonia black because we had said no to the celebration of 11 February. And yet these children violated it, went there and did what they did. Our ASA did nothing. And then they are surprised. They only say, well, let us do something to be relevant. They adopt this thing. They adopt these children. 15 of them are motorcyclists. That means there were at least 7, 8 to 10 motorcycles because you're supposed to carry 1 person at a time. They were driving their motorcycles in a convoy. In the midst of all the security found there, nobody has caught them. Nobody identified them. Why? I think my own conclusion. Because government is in complicity with what happened. And so, to those boys, where their boys were girls, were said no to the celebration. Why did they go there in the first place? They went there nonetheless, and today they are said to have been captured. When they come back to us, but it's new. Talk about in the other segment. Remember, the Boko Haram went to Nigeria and adopted 300 girls from a Boko. 300. In the eyes of the federal government of Nigeria, they never knew what they went to do. Is it rare that somebody will adopt 300 people in the middle of the day, put them in heavy trucks and disappear? Practically, intelligently. So this is something happening to this in Nsoh, these 15 students, and the events in Tumba. Tumba has been noted for all the crimes I can imagine. To every day, something is happening in Tumba. But every day, the security is reinforced in Tumba. Military camps are built, places are put there, soldiers are patrolling the place, and non legislations occur every day. Who is to be blamed? Is it the military? Is it the people? It is the military for their total failure. And they really failed to maintain security as it's supposed to, or they are accomplices to it with the idea of achieving a different goal. That's what is happening in Buea and then. Back to the story of the auxiliary bishop being appointed. Somewhere, from captivity to something. He's an auxiliary bishop now. He was just of a university who was taken to custody. For whatever I don't know, demanded. The Archbishop, he said what he said. Finally, he was, along with his friends, I think they were three of them. Now he ceased to be a rector of the university. He ceased to be an ordinary priest. He joined the corps of the policy makers of the Catholic Church as an auxiliary bishop. He's on the path to becoming a full bishop in the next years. Because has shown in the past that the bishop of the others, bishops of the others have always matured somewhere. The first one that appointed to assist Bishop Etueso was Agapatus. He matured from that position and became the Bishop of Kumba. He has an active diocese. He's in control over there. The one that took over from him, assisting the same Etueso was who? Was Bibi. He might became the full Abuya. So this gentleman is maturing to become a full bishop and assistant and bishop. In terms of Catholic faith, powerful person. He has to wrong. Some church, he does that. But he had tasted it. He's some captivity to the high table. So he knows it is to live in captivity. He has tasted of Ambazonia by being a victim, by being taken into custody, by sleeping where he did not want to sleep. Of all, it was just a great trouble. Of course, that person there is dead by himself. He is so. We can only hope for the best. He is going to be a bishop, even as an auxiliary. He cannot influence policy of the Catholic Church from wherever he may be, either as an assistant to the Archbishop Mbamanda, or eventually as a full-fledged bishop somewhere else. And I suspect his next appointment might be in Kumbo, because the Bishop of Kumbo is due retirement in the next 2-3 years. At that time, there will be a vacancy. He will mature there. If he becomes the Bishop of Kumbo, we cover the area where he was adopted into the bushes. That will be an interesting analysis at the time. Over to you. Over to you.
Yeah, Pastor Mbeseha, I just got certified that amidst this very important conversation that we're having, it's kind of sad. But I am happy that you have spent some time to actually communicate some things the way you have just done. Ambazonia situation right now that is from within. We were just talking a few minutes ago of youths in parts in both in Ambazonia that have pledged their life, their blood for the soul of Ambazonia. And you have, on the other hand, some youths who have pledged their greed to betray their own very people. You have Paddy, you have the Prime Minister himself, though he is no longer a youth. You have Joshua Osi. You have Congo, this man, how is he called, Agbo Congo. You have Agbo Bala. All of these people is like a network, and that's why you see when Chiruma came up the road, they have access, because the truth about it is that they have some family members who are in them. And through these family members, they are able to penetrate certain communities, making it really difficult for our defense initiative, because these people easier access into the communities because they are Southern Cameroonian born, but actually declared badly. When you look at most of Cameroon getting certain intelligence that they invade communities, kill people, they get this information from even the neighbors. So when you say on one hand to those who are betraying the soul of Ambazonia today, and to the people who knowingly or unknowingly would have just been the window of these invaders that come to create mayhem to our people, the massacre, the arrest, and so on and so forth, making our discussion even difficult. Please talk to us.
Well, I think all said and done, to Cameroonians in particular, to Africans in general, and most particularly Nigerians, youth is important. Youth must stand up for what they believe in. I will insist and plead with them to take the cue from Ambazonia. If we are here 10 years after, it is because our youth have stood up to say they want to take what is theirs, in spite of all the pain. They have not spent time on radio talking or on TV talking. They have spent time challenging the status quo. Yaoundé knows, France knows, Africa knows that Ambazonia youths have been up to the task. But for the Ambazonia youths, you and me will not be sitting here and talking like this. They have marched them. And if the Nigerians took a cue from them, if the Cameroonians took a cue from us, they will liberate Africa, just as we want to liberate Cameroon, just as we want to liberate Ambazonia. And so our youths are resilient. They are as intelligent as any other youths in the world, but they are not sleeping in their beds. So easily, no. They have been defamed. They have been called names. They have been anything that they want to brand them in the world. But I'll have the way when they sit down, I believe, this is my personal conviction, they go into their thinking room and wonder why they even thought they could do this. Why and how these little children, these people, these cute children were the time were married, has not married for 10 years. They regret for doing it. And so Africa's future depends on youth. Africa's future depends upon us. Ambazonian future depends upon us. And all Africa's youths fight right will not only transform Ambazonia into full Africa, shall no longer become a miniature, will be Ambazonia in miniature. Fight will fight. Let Nigeria know. Challenge the status quo. Status quo is always difficult to challenge because they have the arms with them. Money, then that they can press you, that they can use even to eliminate you, to take life out. The same applies to Cameroon. Don't sit there and say you support Chiroma or come to and fight for what is. And despite the difficulty, some of you might die. Death is natural, but you in the end get what you're fighting for. Just as the were encouraged, let up for what we believe. We are still standing up. Many are surprised that 10 years we are progressing, not those who got in 2016, the embassy there is stronger than what they left. People who saw it in 2019 after the Grand National Dialogue and thought it was all over, they are embarrassed that was stronger than 2019. Those who went to Canada, possibly drank beer, have comfortable hotels to sleep in, and they were dismissed from there, are still embarrassed. They're surprised that we are still doing better than we were in 2022, 2023. And so the youth are the center core of any community. And we're proud to say it. I'm sure that none of those youths fighting there is my age. They didn't see what I saw, but they've taken the pain, they have borne the blunt more than me. They are angrier than I am. And so they're able to do it with the vigilance that they have, with the facilities that they have in them, with the young blood that they still have. Free. Journey is easy. Keep us fighting. Let others emulate us. Our fight is not going to be. Our youth are being vindicated, and we shall be vindicated at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's not too far. 10 years have passed by. I'm not sure that we'll have 10 more years to go. We'll probably have just a few months. Over to you. Paddy?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mbeseha, for joining us in this conversation. It was very important for us to get here. I understand that you probably want to be in some of the IOC meetings. We've been here for slightly above 1 hour. So I just want to take this opportunity to thank you for always being part and to thank all those who have been faithful at the home front and on Facebook and on YouTube. You're watching us and sharing our content. I want to very specially thank the patrons, the partners, the donors, the club members, and just to announce that we are preparing your tax letters for the fiscal year 2025. We should start giving them to you probably next week. Some of you have some accounts to handle with us. We'll try to call and have some conversations with you. But if you're interested to find out your status and so you can get some of your documents, please do call, not me. And he will definitely documents to management and we'll have them get ready to you for you in due time. I would want to thank also the anchor ladies for tremendous work. They are making huge progress on daily basis, making sure that they are investigating these stories and providing them to you. There's no news in Cameroun like this news. Our news is kind of abstract sometimes because we are into the business of the news that the fraudulent mainstream media, especially in the Cameroons, doesn't want the world to know about it. And so it takes a lot of risk for our personnel on the ground who go into different, very difficult places to get this information so that we can have it broadcast for your pleasure. We are calling on those of you who for some time have not been able to fulfill your monthly dues for ABC. It is not really, if there was an option, if there was another option for us as a people to take, if there was another path for us to choose, we would have probably chosen. But this is our path, this is our destiny, this is our calling, this is what we are supposed to do at this time. We are the ones that have been positioned right now to do it. The question we should ask ourselves, if we do not do it now, we would have an apology that might not be accepted by the next generation. We'll have an apology to give, and it might not just be accepted. We are not apologists, and therefore we are the choosing generation that is well equipped psychologically, that has been properly emancipated to win this war. We can win it. It takes only consistency, our resilience, our unwaveringness. We have opted that no matter what is happening, we're not giving up any day soon. Thank you for tuning in. Until next week, it's been Tarh Paddy King. I will most definitely be with you again next Saturday so we can have this beautiful conversation as always. Have a beautiful night. Bye-bye.